We are African, and we happen to be in America. We're not American. We are people who formerly were Africans who were kidnapped and brought to America. We, our forefathers weren't the Pilgrims. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. The rock was landed on us. We were brought here against our will. We were not brought here to be made citizens. We were not brought here to enjoy the constitutional gifts that they speak so beautifully about today. Because we weren't brought here to be made citizens today, now that we've become awakened to some degree and we begin to ask for those things which they say are supposedly for Americans, they look upon us with hostility and unfriendliness. If you're interested in freedom, you need some judo, you need some karate, you need all the things that will help you fight for freedom. Nationalism is the wave of the present and the future. It is nationalism that's bringing freedom to oppressed people all over the world. It was nationalism that brought freedom to the Algerians. It was nationalism that brought freedom to the Nigerians and to the Ghanaians. It was nationalism that brought freedom to the people of Uganda and Tanganyika and Sudan and Somaliland. The Africans didn't get it by sitting in. They didn't get it by waiting in. They didn't get it by singing "We Shall Overcome." They got it through nationalism. And you and I will get it through nationalism. What is it? What is it that makes it difficult for the philosophy of nationalism to spread among the so-called Negroes? Number one, they think they have a stake in America. They think they have an investment in this country, which we do. We invested 310 years of slave labor, 310 years, every day of which your and my mother and father worked for nothing. Not 8 hours a day. There was no union in that day. They worked from sun up until sundown, from can't see in the morning until can't see at night. They never had a day off. And on Sunday, they were allowed to sit down and sing about when they died, they wouldn't be slaves no more. When they died, they wouldn't be slaves no more. They'd go up in the sky and every day would be Sunday. That's a shame. And it is that 310 years of slave labor that went in, that was my and your contribution into this particular economy and political system. They can give us the back pay. Let's join in. If this is what the Negro wants, let's join in. Let's show him how to struggle. Let's show him how to fight. Let's show him how to bring about a real revolution. Let's make him stop jiving. You don't need a debate. You don't need a filibuster. You need some action.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another live broadcast on the forecast. Now I know I'm a little bit late, but it's like I'm saying, I wasn't even gonna come on here today, but I wanted to keep the Wednesday thing going for as long as I can. Now I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna promise that I'm gonna be on this set schedule anymore. I don't know. And of course, when me and Cassandra can go live, we definitely gonna do that. But for now, though, I'm gonna try to keep it going on, and and even now, my friend gave me a couple good topics about dysfunction in the black family and how to about therapy and just dysfunctional relationships between parents and children, the stuff that we talk about. It just didn't seem right necessarily without Cassandra, which is one of the reasons why I brought her on. So w- you know among many other reasons. So yeah, so I'm like, we're not going to talk about that. And I don't know how long I'm going to be on here today or whatever, but I'll be on here for a little while. um what's going on, Rob? Appreciate you coming through. So this one is kind of open. If somebody want to come on here and talk, you can come on here or whatever, but you know uh just we just gonna go through a little bit, and then I'm gonna get out of here before too late. So anyway, and shouts out to her. And speaking of Cassandra, I want to show you, because she's actually over there in Africa living her best life. She got, doing big things over there. And she wanted to post some videos. I'm gonna try to help her. But before I get into it, I'm gonna just show, some stuff from her. This is her over there,
Which is super cool. And they have apartments here, which is super high because it's super convenient. And it's a very nice mall. Very nice, very nice, very nice. It's not very busy today because we're like, it's still early. But yeah, these are very nice apartments. And yeah, very nice. And some of the clothes, it's not that pricey. You have children clothing, uh, 425 RS Mauritius Rubies. It's not a lot of money. This is a kid's store here. It's a kid's store. Okay. And then I'm just going down. Still early. It's like maybe just to see what's down here. I guess that's I don't know what's up in there, but yeah. But yeah.
So yeah, this is her over there, and this is some stuff that she sent me here.
And this is upstairs. Same thing. Same thing. Oh, you got same thing. It just doesn't.
You just buy a washing machine. It's gonna cost you more cheaper.
Really? To do the washing machine?
Put it. Instead of paying 5,000 every month extra.
Yeah, yeah, Rod. Yeah, I know all of that stuff is going on over in Jamaica and stuff like that. And people is messed up out there. And yeah, I know I haven't seen you around for a little while. I'm glad you all right and everything like that too.
Extra. A washing machine will cost you 10,000 at one time payment, and then you're saving.
Yeah.
You're saving
it's the
10
same
months.
thing. It's the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we did have before, we see the washing machine downstairs. The previous tenant break.
This one's better. Yeah. And then okay, we even have it here. Okay.
They will clean that one, this one for you.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so shouts out to Cassandra for doing big things over there. She got the whole thing going on. So shouts out to her.
Okay.
20K. The difference.
throwing apartments. And y'all can follow Cassandra and follow her and her new page and stuff like that. So, shouts out to her, because if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't have been doing lives for a while, you know what I'm saying? So shouts out to her and for her move and her doing big things going over there. Y'all went to the caves until it was over. That's crazy. Yeah, I'm sorry you had to go through that for real. And I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad you all right. I'm glad you back over here. I'm glad to hear from you. Cause yeah, I definitely noticed you ain't been here for the last couple times. And I know all that stuff that was happening. So yeah, shouts out to Raw in the building. Appreciate you for coming through. All right, so I realized, I guess, like I said, I had other topics that I could talk about, but I'm gonna make this more of a free thing. And if somebody want to come on here, you're welcome to come on here. Yeah, Karma. Shouts out to Karma 804. Best wishes to her over there. Yeah. Yeah, it does look nice. And make sure y'all subscribe to her new page and whatnot. And just for Veterans Day, I was just gonna talk about, history, the history of black veterans and stuff like that. But y'all know how I do it, right? But before we do that though, I want to show you a couple things that I was gonna show, just to because it's gonna start messing up now that I'm trying to pull it up. Now it's gonna start messing up. So hold up. So while everybody is going through all of this, said it was not nature. You ever seen birds flying through a hurricane? Shit, that was birds flying. No, I never seen that. And while all of that is going on, look what the hell is going on over in damn Argentina. The damn Argentinian president is up there wilding out, tripping. I'm telling you, I don't know what the hell be going on over in Europe, what they be having going on. I don't know what the hell. I can't even do that. But on a more serious note, I want to show y'all something here. Now this brother here, and they trying to go after this brother here, and this was in North Carolina, which my sister Cassandra just left. Yeah, the realtor is Chinese. They're buying up African property left and right. Yeah, and that's what we're gonna talk about too. Like it's kind of the theme of us. So yeah, that's a good observation right there. But yo, check out what happened with this story. And of course, they use their media to frame it a certain way, which is why I even started this in the first place, so we can get the proper context about what's going on. You know what I'm saying? They use their media as propaganda, you know what I'm saying? So it's not that what I'm telling you is true. Everything you're saying, I'm telling you is true. But I'm not gonna tell you it's not propaganda either. But man, check this out.
North Carolina, where this police officer, Roger Smith, 59, was killed after shooting 29-year-old Benji Martin Jr. in the stomach. I am going to give you some information from other sources about what really happened. But first, let me play you a couple of news clips about the incident that mentions nothing about the officer shooting Benji, but are going with the narrative that this officer was a hero and he stopped many lives from being taken that day because there was a dangerous black man in the ER. But I'm going to give you some information that is furthest from that narrative and also shows that the officer may have been cowardly and the aggressor in the situation. And this video is fair use for literary and commentary purposes only. Just watch.
We continue to follow breaking news in Garner this hour as we learn more about that shooting that killed a WakeMed campus police officer. Investigators say Officer Roger Smith was shot in the lobby of the emergency room at WakeMed Garner Health Complex around 9 o'clock this morning. The 59-year-old officer was transported to WakeMed's Raleigh Hospital, where he was later pronounced dead. Garner police tell us they've also charged 29-year-old Benji Martin Jr. with murder. People who were
Now we're gonna start off this Veterans Day edition, right, with a slain veteran here, what they playing the bagpipes and stuff. But listen to, and like he's saying, right now, look at how they are presenting what happened as opposed to what actually happened, as they salute this veteran. Well, you know, cops could be considered that too, you know.
at a nearby farmers market were stunned to learn what happened.
There can just be more precautions put on to protect people. It's a crazy world we live in today.
A law enforcement procession honoring Smith shut down Interstate 440 as officers escorted his body to the medical examiner's office. Now, new at 11, we're hearing from people who knew Officer Smith. As CBS 17's Haley Kennedy reports, those people say he was the kindest person they knew.
It might, after you hear about what happened, make you want to question those fools talking about that's the kindest person they know. Wonder who they are and who they know, if he's the kind one.
WakeMed officials say Officer Roger Smith's legacy stretches far beyond these walls. After nearly 30 years of service in law enforcement, they're calling his final moments heroic.
Active shooter at WakeMed Garner.
To anyone on scene for a patient count, I need a patient count.
It's going to be a 50-year-old male GSW. It's going to be a WakeMed officer.
First responders rushing to the scene after WakeMed campus police officer Roger Smith was gunned down in the emergency room after a struggle with someone in the lobby.
I started kind of searching social media and news accounts and stuff, just trying to find a picture so I could confirm my worst suspicions.
Stephen Moore was high school best friends with Smith at Garner Senior, now called Garner Magnet High School.
All right, now, of course, y'all get the picture. They boosting this fool up. Oh, yeah, this hero, this guy who stopped all of this stuff from happening, and he ended up dead. Now, I hope you tell the story. I ain't watched it.
Typical protocol. Now, before I tell you what really happened from a hospital worker and a friend who brought Benji Martin to the ER room, just let's look at what they're saying. They're saying that this officer was shot in the lobby after a brief struggle, and Benji Martin has been charged with murder. No information as to what happened, how this happened, none of that. They go straight into the public sentiment about the officer. Well, we talk to the people in the area, and you know they go into the law enforcement procession. They move this body, and they want to talk to people who knew Officer Smith, and they called him heroic. And then they play the 911 call of the active shooter, meaning, okay, well, they put you in the mind there's an active shooter. And, oh, well, the active shooter was around the shooting, and he shot Officer Smith for no reason at all. That is not true, right? But then they go and talk to his high school friend, and they have the Blue founder up there. And then,
All right, so I'll just tell you what happened. Now, this brother, right, who was having some kind of medical emergency, some kind of I don't know, where his friend had to take him to the hospital. So he was already a patient in this hospital, right? So they trying to, you know how they just sit there and talk. See, I want you, and this is why I even started this channel, right? To show you how they manipulate the information and how they just flat out lie and gaslight you, you know, in the first place, you know. and how they use the news and their media and even these platforms, which is why I get so disappointed in us. And like when we jump in on the narrative and go in on each other, which is the main reason why I don't try to go at no other black person. I don't want to debate no other black person. We can have conversations and disagreements and all of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Learn from each other, but I don't want to feed into this negative. I don't want to feed into it because that's what makes money, right? And it's all about the perception and how the information is presented to you. And then you take it and internalize it and look at the next black person as if they're a threat. You know what I'm saying? Just because what he got dreads or something, right? Because you hear something crazy and this dude, but the truth is, right now, this brother was having a mental breakdown. He could have been in pain. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? And this brother was like making a lot of noise, right? So this cop goes over to him, and you know how they get, like, oh, probably like, oh, be quiet, boy, or something. You know how they get down. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't know what happened, but the brother wouldn't. So the cop grabs him by the neck, right, and pulls out his gun, right, and threatening him, like, you know what I'm saying, if you don't stop, then I'm gonna, you know what I'm saying, do X, Y, and Z to you. So this cop puts his hands on him, escalating the whole situation. Maybe I got something that's quicker because it's on like 20 minutes. But he put his hands on him. Then he shot the brother first. All right.
Smith to grab Martin by the neck with his left hand and unholster his firearm with his right hand. So things are escalating, and here is where it really goes off the rails. A physical struggle ensued, according to those present. Martin, still disoriented, pleaded with Officer Smith not to shoot him. During the struggle, Smith fired a shot into Martin's stomach. The altercation continued.
Now you see how they presented it, but that brother was begging for his life, begging the cop not to shoot him while he was a patient in the hospital. Right? That cop walked over to him. Right? The witnesses and all the people that was actually there was like, that brother didn't actually harm anybody. He was just making noise. Right? And so this cop put his hands on his neck, pulled out his gun, right? And the brother asked him begged him not to shoot him, but he did.
And sources allege the officer shot again and accidentally shot himself in the leg.
What's going on, Matron?
Now, the
Shouts out
subsequent
to
round
Matron in the
reportedly
building.
struck Officer Smith in the chest, which bystanders are alleging fatally wounded him. Well, it makes sense that our brother Benji didn't grab a firearm on the way to the hospital, so the only gun present was the cops.
But right, as this slain veteran here, but when we get into the details and how they use their media, which is why we got to be way more smarter on these platforms, you know what I'm saying? And be careful what we put out and sitting here arguing with each other about other people's politics. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm like tired of hearing about the same Republican, Democrat. That's the only thing people was talking about. And I'm tired of it. Like, okay, like, damn, what are we going to do about it? Because the problem is, I've been here for like 10 years saying the same thing over and over and over, and you finally mad, but you get mad at me. But anyway, I'm going on tangents. We got to be more smarter about how we present ourselves and our information and how we come at each other on these platforms, because they use their media to present us in a certain light. And then guess what? You tell a lie enough, then everybody believes it until you actually see the truth for yourself, of course. But the problem is, with us, we try to serve everybody else. And now I want you to see, now this black teacher. Now I don't know what was going on here. Maybe it could, but it sounded like some kind of clone stuff going on, or the black principal, or looks to be mulatto principal, mixed principal, held the students with only the black, or held a meeting with only the black students. I guess blaming them for whatever it is,
The principal of Woodrow
the
Wilson
low
High School
scores,
to
even
know
though they have low IQs.
after parents say she held a meeting with only black students last week about their academic performance. Dallas ISD officials have named an interim principal in the meantime. Mila Serjati with the Dallas Morning News has written about this and joins us now with more. Mila, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Let's go back to Friday. What do we know about the meeting on Friday that led to this?
Yeah, so reports started going around on social media over the weekend that Woodrow Wilson's principal, Chandra Hooper Barnett, called only black students into a meeting on Friday to discuss their academic performance. A parent I talked to said her son told her that Principal Barnett, who has led the school for
Another
20
Asian
years,
woman,
blamed them for the
as
school's
we
B
call it,
rating. The mom said, she couldn't believe what she was hearing because her son has a 3.5 GPA and is in AP classes and college classes. And she thinks that if there was an issue with academic performance, parents should have been consulted beforehand. So she says, there's a real trust that's been broken between the school and families, and damage has been done by what she sees as, a principal who is black, who is in a historic leadership position, telling her son that he's not enough.
Of course. So
now a principal calls herself black, right? Because no offense, maybe she could be, but this principal, I guess we had on another one, holds a meeting and blames the black students for this, right? You aren't, I don't know. But it's the mindset, right? It's the mindset that we got, right? We try to educate everybody else, but I think we are the least educated for real when it comes to, we the most skilled at everything, but the least educated when it comes to human politics, right? Or living politics, right? Lion knows the structure of a lion thing more than we understand, but we try to educate everybody, right? But this is what they call a black principal holding a meeting with only black students to blame them. Or maybe they'll show a picture here,
Premium is ad-free.
what they call a black woman.
Stephen. Having a B rating. Now it's important to note that in the prior review, the school actually had a C rating. With the principal removed, some parents still want more answers from the district.
The principal stated that they are the reason for the B rating, and not in like a, oh, you guys help uplift the grade. It's you all's fault that we're not an A school.
That's how one parent interpreted Principal Chandra Hooper Barnett's message to her son, a 10th grade honors student. Jennifer, who is the mother, did not want to use
She might be a black woman. I don't know.
Told me that her son and the other black students were pulled out of class for this meeting.
It was like responsibility placed on students versus administrators saying, hey, we're going to do this.
The principal, who was also black, later acknowledged that the meeting was not appropriate. And in a letter to parents, she told them, I take full ownership and responsibility for what occurred. And I want to assure you that it was never my intent to.
We's got to live up to these white folks' expectations. We got to do twice as much. Come on, man. Stop it, yo. We got to do this, what we have to do for ourselves. Imagine all of this energy that we put in to save democracy, if we put in to save ourselves. And the only way that's going to happen is if you start taking control of your children's mind, because this is just a common thing, right? And this is the thing, right? See, people take advantage of you and they think that your children and your family is weak.
No kids.
And so this is what they do, right? When there's no protection for your children. I was watching the thing. He was like, it was about the Jews and putting them in the ovens and stuff like that. It was a movie though, because who knows the truth? I don't know. All right. But he was like, I realized once I was putting your children in the ovens and you didn't do anything, that we had you beat, right? That it was over. If we can put your children into ovens and you just sit there and watch and don't do nothing, then there's a problem.
Home, like I told y'all, he thought they didn't have no dad. He thought it was a mama was gonna come out yelling, screaming. He thought he was gonna be able to probably push the mama over and yell at the mama. Pops came out with chop. Stop playing. Stop playing with my kids, bro. Look how his energy changed when he see how these people had an actual guardian over them. Feel like some good kids come from school, man. I ain't trying to hear none of that, bro. Look how you trying to raise his voice. Listen.
Yeah, my child called me and told me somebody got hurt. I come with a safety clip ready.
Yep.
See, especially when they think you don't have no mother and father and home in the first place, which is why we talk about these generational curses and generational issues, And when a man came out there to greet him, right, it was different, a whole different energy, whole different ball game, Now, speaking of serving them, right? Speaking of, because I'm gonna get into, and I'm gonna do more of a historical thing. You know what I'm saying? Just keep it historic, and then wrap it up. I ain't gonna be on. I don't plan on being here on super long. So like I said, this is an open thing. If somebody want to come on here and say something, you are welcome to say something. And if I'm wrong, then come tell me I'm wrong.
The new video stating consequences of a federal task force bust gone wrong.
Now check this out, right? Now the black cop, he was saying blue lives matter, right? But the white cop recognizes this, and this is a thing that we're gonna see throughout history, that we just don't seem to learn lessons. Because what I really wanted to talk about, for real, but it pisses me off though, you know what I'm saying? And like I said, we got to be careful when we come on here, especially when we mad at ourselves about what we say and the stuff that we perpetuate, right? But it pisses me off how weak that we seem to be, right? It does piss me off, because we just want to be a part of something, right? Like, check out this homegrown black veteran, local black veteran, and what happened to him when he thought he was one of
The new
them.
video sheds important light on the devastating consequences of a federal task force bust gone wrong.
Yeah, the video comes as a result of WBTV fighting and winning for its unsealing in federal court. Investigative reporter Naomi Coles walks us through it.
It's the early morning hours of November 1st, 2019. A man walks out of his home in Northwest Charlotte. Moments later, an FBI task force waiting outside closes in as he runs back into the house. From Gastonia Police, this is Task Force Officer Clarence Belton. These are his task force partners, and this is CMPD Officer
His partners.
They're not on the
quote
task
unquote.
force, but according to court filings, they've been called in for perimeter support. The task force has a search warrant as part of a drug investigation. What's about to happen after this man runs inside has become the subject of controversy and the lawsuit that spent years slogging its way through federal court.
I've got 45 years of law enforcement experience.
This is Dr. Roy Taylor, who I asked to watch the video with me. He's a police litigation specialist and longtime police chief with experience on federal task forces like this one. He has no connection to the incident or the lawsuit, but he researched both at my request.
I'm going to start it right before the suspect runs into the garage in the house.
Belton and his partner, just off screen, are about to use a battering ram to take down the door. When they do, court filings say a woman is standing there just off screen with a gun pointed at them. Belton and his partners shoot. Belton feels his arm go numb, his gun drops, and he collapses and will later testify that he crawled and stumbled out of the garage while continuing to take fire. It's hard to see here.
Now, this brother was walking towards them, already shot, continuing to be shot, and trying to be like, hey, I'm one of you. Please stop shooting me. And they was like, bow, 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 bow. And he was like, I'm one of you. Please stop shooting me.
Adds legitimacy to the fact that he was actually crawling. There he is right there. You can just make out his profile.
As he crawls, CMPD officer Loveridge fires at him. Records say.
Now, first of all, even if he wasn't a cop, right? As he crawls, he's still firing at it. And the brother's still crawling out because he thinks he's one of them. But even as he crawling, like, the dude is still shooting him. Like, what the hell?
It was 14 times. Loveridge would testify in court. She had heard the shots fired in the doorway, saw no officers left in the garage, and thought Belton was the suspect. Belton was the only black officer on the task force, and the suspect, Loveridge had been told, was also black. If a person is
Oh, so that makes it make sense. And the suspect was also black, so we're just gonna shoot every black person, even if you rolled to the probably rolled up with us. You was the only black person with them. And this is the thing, we like to be the only one, right? But hey, I'm glad. I think this is a national wake-up call to me. I'm laughing, you know what I'm saying? Because look, I done told you already. I don't really have nothing to lose, I guess, you know? And you really don't either, you know what I'm saying, when you think about it? Because why would you want your children to be in this situation? So, the hard way it is. We'll learn it. We'll keep learning it the hard way. That's fine. You don't have to listen to me. This is why you in the situation that you in. And the fact that you think that if it was somewhat different, that you'll be okay. This is what happens every day. That nonsense that y'all arguing about, that y'all mad about, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no such thing as the lesser of two evils, but this happens every single day.
Crawling toward you without a visible gun, is that something you can shoot at?
Absolutely not. Irrelevant that it's a police officer. It wouldn't matter if it was the suspect or the woman that pulled the gun or an innocent person in the house. There's no justification for firing that weapon.
Belton survived, but with permanent injuries.
He's black. That's our guy. That's him.
In the city of Charlotte for negligence.
Good old veterans.
It's a test of the leading legal decision that governs much of the modern day use of force nationwide. That's Graham versus Connor, a Charlotte incident that went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court in 1989. It's a legal decision that Dr. Taylor says all officers, including those at CMPD, are trained on multiple times.
You know, her defense, I mean, this is a very quickly unfolding, dangerous situation. But again, you don't use deadly force unless there is a threat of deadly force being used against you or somebody else.
But there are larger issues at play, as this video shows. Loveridge, for example, has pointed to how difficult it was to see the words police on Belton's vest. Dr. Taylor sees this case as one where
it's black skin blinded me. I couldn't see the word police and highlighted glowing letters on his chest that said police as he yelled, hey, I'm police, I'm one of you. All I could see was like, we got him. That's what he said after shooting him like 20 times. We got him.
different decisions from the task force after the suspect ran inside could have changed the outcome.
This is much more than a few task force officers really should tackle. They really should pull back, secure the perimeter, and wait for reinforcements to come.
Is there a larger conversation to be had about the training and the regulations for these types of missions?
I think so.
No. There's no larger conversation to be had. No, not at all. I hate to break it to you, but there is only one answer, to be honest with you. But speaking of Veterans Day, shouts out to all the Black veterans out there and how they're still being treated to
Executives
this
of the
very
Veterans
day.
Outreach Center in Rochester are responding to complaints from Black employees and vets about unequal treatment, retaliation, and outright racism.
We heard a Black veteran who served this country say that this place put him out in the dead cold of one of the coldest days in winter. He had to sleep in a van to the point that he said he just shared this for the first time on Thursday. He almost lost one of his fingers.
That veteran, Marcus Thompson, says he was thrown out of the shelter because he was complaining about staff going through his personal belongings.
They ended up kicking me out, and this was back in March, like one of the coldest days.
A former employee of the center says he resigned after witnessing the mistreatment of Thompson and other fellow vets.
And so for me, that's unacceptable. I served this country very well. I have 2 combat tours.
Yeah, I'm sure you
I
did.
see other veterans like myself.
One thing about Negroes, we're gonna serve everything very well, except we may serve ourselves last, if that. But we're gonna serve everything and everybody very well, very well. We're the best Christians, best Muslims, right? Best Americans, best Iranians, right? Best Argentinians, but the worst Black people. Ain't that something?
Who are saying, I need that help. I feel assisted to help that individual when I'm able to help that individual. And this program just doesn't.
All right, right. So we know, well, I know, I guess I should start saying what happens, right? A Black man has no place in the white man's military. I want you to hear what I was saying years ago, right? Now, this was 6 years ago before they started really, I guess.
Can't tell anyone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll be having I was putting weird videos at the beginning. I don't
I'm
even
just
remember
cook
what this
food,
is.
woman. I cannot cook food. I don't know how to cook food because I'm homosexual. Rex has risen. White girls fuck dogs. I said my dog licks my ass. I didn't say I fucked him. I don't fuck dogs. I let them lick my ass. She's a trap that fucks dogs. You're a fucking nigger that picks cotton. Shut the fuck up. Fucking nigger.
Lord have mercy.
Nigger that picks cotton.
Muhammad Ali was like, "Oh, you let the dog eat it. I ain't got nothing that the dog ain't got." Lord have mercy.
And you probably don't even work, do you? Because you're so fucking lazy because you smoke marijuana all day. So whatever. The bottom line is what are you laughing about? What's
because
so funny?
this is going on News 8.
Oh, good. It's going on.
Because you don't care, right? You don't care, right, ma'am? This is going on News 8.
Illegally,
You don't.
I am contacting my lawyer.
This is going on News 8. Ma'am, don't touch
Give me
me.
your phone.
Don't touch me.
Give me
Don't
your
touch
phone.
me. That's assault and battery.
Give me
You're
your
going on
phone.
News 8 for swearing and for saying you don't do this and that.
But go to war for this country. That still votes every 25 years, whether we are live back again. Still votes every 25 years, whether they allow you to continue to vote or not. Historically, we have fought for this country's freedom more than we fought for our own. We fight to put on their uniforms to go do their job. And if you can go to war to go fight for a country that never respected you or even saw you as a human, then it shouldn't be a problem to go to war for yourself and for your children and future generations. But no matter how bad we're treated, we continue to run and sign up to go join their army. They say the first person to ever die for America was a Black man named Crispus Attucks. And during the all right, I'll stop it right there, because this is and I led us to a great transition right there, because for Veterans Day, I guess, we're gonna look at the mindset. I don't understand why we keep doing this, And so speaking of Crispus Attucks, Um, let's just play a little bit of it. All right.
Attucks was born in the 1720s. Born of mixed race, both his mother and father were enslaved. His father was of African descent. His mother was Native. He's born from this lineage of enslavement. And he makes a decision as a young man to shed that status.
As legend goes, Crispus makes a daring escape for freedom in 1750, prompting an ad in the Boston Gazette that offers a glimpse at how enslaved people were viewed in colonial America.
Ran away from his master, William Brown.
The mulatto fellow, about 27 years of age, and Crispus.
6 feet.
Now, right, recognized as a mulatto fellow, right? Now, that's a whole nother subject, right? That y'all don't want to have, to be honest with you. But one thing that you're gonna learn is like whatever the mix is, usually is a lot of anti-blackness wrapped in. That's not even talking about the black parent, right? Well, let's not talk about the self-hate wrapped up in there. Usually, most times, 99.9% of the time, right? But the anti-blackness from the other side that you hear over and over and over, right? You know, but there you have it. This black man was actually a mulatto man.
2 inches high.
Had on a lead-colored bearskin coat.
Blue yarn stockings. Fugitive slave ads give us a physical description of a person like Crispus Attucks. They are portrayed as property, as if they were a chair to be sold at auction.
For 2 decades after his escape, it is believed that Crispus works on trading ships and whaling vessels coming in and out of Boston.
This created anger. So Attucks, as a working man, was part of this struggle.
On March 5th, tensions between the colonists and British soldiers reach a breaking point. As the story goes, a British soldier walks into a pub looking for work. He's greeted by a group of angry sailors, including Crispus Attucks.
He did.
Now, this mulatto brother, you know, what he did was went to Boston, thought he was a part of them, or thought he was one of them, tried to blend in with them, right? And, you know, I thought he was
Like the way
part of the
he
crowd.
and his friends were being treated by the British. He didn't like the fact that employment was hard to come by. He didn't like the taxes that were squeezing merchant seamen.
Hours later, the situation escalates in front of the old
Only
state
black
house.
person, mulatto
There are a
person
group
there.
of these black and white dock workers who come together and try to form a public procession to declare their outrage.
At that point, because he was a runaway, the prudent thing for Attucks to do would be to quietly back away and kind of get out of this.
Now the thing is, they don't know any of this. To be honest with you, they make like they don't know what he was thinking or none of that stuff, you know. Because the truth is, the only reason, well, not to say it like this, you know, because I guess it sounds messed up, but the reason that we know about that is because of this president John Adams, you know what I'm saying? And this is, I guess, the old movie on it. But he came up with the trope that is used in law enforcement today, that Crispus Attucks made. He was a Negro, this big Negro who was charging. Now, this American president, the second president of America, defended the British and used a black man, made them do it to excuse what they call the Boston Massacre, which they make you learn about in their schools, right? And they don't even tell you the truth about the story, right? Because their president, who should have been like a traitor for this, blamed a black man because he was a black man, and he made them fear for their life And they actually won the case, right? Because a black man made them fear for their life. So now we know that a black man was the first one to die for America, right? As we're told today, right? And that's how these like storylines get like screwed up, right? That this mulatto dude who was up in his bar trying to hang out. Like, I mean, this is just the story about what happened. You know, if you strip away all the history, the details, and if you look at it as just as a black person today, he was up in the bar in Boston as the only black person. They used him to get off on killing a bunch of people because a black man charged him. And then the dude went on to become the second president of America. But anyway, and then, you know, of course, that leads to the Revolutionary War, right? And of course, there was many black soldiers in the Revolutionary War, right? Why the hell would there be?
Imagine standing
That's a
on the
good question.
front lines of the American Revolution, where the very ideals of freedom and equality are being fought for, but a significant portion of the population, even some of the soldiers beside you, remain shackled by slavery. This was the case in 1775 when the shots fired at Lexington and Concord sparked the Revolutionary War. 500,000 Black people were living in the colonies at the time, 90% of whom were enslaved. But as the war raged, did you know that far more Black men fought for the British loyalists than the American patriots? In an America rampant with slavery and racism, many Black soldiers saw a British victory as their best chance for freedom. And the British promised them liberation in exchange for their service. While some promises were fulfilled, what happened next was much more complex.
You leave to go.
Now, you know, when they start saying it was much more complex, it just means they screwed you over. They stabbed you in the back again. Complex mind. It wasn't that complex, right? Now, they went to war over taxes. And this is the thing, right? We was being enslaved and they was ready to go to war because they was being taxed on coffee and or tea or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And they dressed up like Indians and burnt a bunch of tea. Just like no different from running up in the White House today. You know what I'm saying? Y'all talk about it today. How, oh, what about January 4th? Well, that's the same thing that they did. They burned the damn tea. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just what they do, you know? And what happened was they got into this war as Europeans do with each other. And when each side tried to use you as a pawn, so the British was like, hey, we'll give Black people freedom if you help us fight to beat them, you know, or at least be under our control, you know. But it was never freedom because you would have to pay taxes to whoever won. That's the part, you know, that not even talked about, right? But and they was losing that first, and then when Black people joined the British, start joining the British, then they start winning. And then George Washington got scared, right? And said, hey, Black people, if you come fight for me, I'll offer you freedom, right? That's what happened, right? It's not even that complicated. He was like, I'll give you freedom if you come. And then they start winning because whatever side that Black people join usually win whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? Elections, wars, or whatever. I would like to test that theory if we had our own backs and see what happened then, but whatever.
Go to the unknown when you are absolutely sure that what's behind you, what you are leaving, is worse. So that kind of impassioned service is always going to have an edge.
This is the story of the broken promises and betrayal that characterized experiences of Black soldiers and how it ultimately shaped the fight for equality in the land of the free. I'm Hrini Bhatt, and this is In the Margins. Black men, both enslaved and free, played a vital role in the Revolutionary War. As news of the battle at Lexington and Concord spread down the East Coast, John Murray, the royal governor of Virginia, urged enslaved people to escape their captors and join the Loyalist forces. The British saw this as an opportunity to bolster their ranks and weaken the American colonial system.
But Lord Dunmore was not an abolitionist. He was thinking purely military. This wasn't necessarily done as a moral thing. He was a slave owner himself.
Within 1 month, 300 Black men and women had escaped slavery and enlisted. And that
Now, do you know what happened to the black people that joined the British? Well, what they leave out is the actual what they classify as one of the first race riots was actually the Shelbourne race riot that happened right after this, right? So a bunch of black people, they went to Nova Scotia, right? And they gave them the worst land, like the swamp lands, and they made a lot of black people didn't get nothing because they had to make sure the white people and slave owners and all of them got what they had got, you know. So of course there was a bunch of racism, if that's what you want to call it, you know. Now the first race riot in right after the war was in Canada, right? Was with the British, you know what I'm saying? Of course, they was going through what they was going through. But they got mad because a black preacher baptized a white girl. You know what I'm saying? And I understand because somebody who messes with dogs in that way should probably not be baptized, you know what I'm saying? Or you're gonna have to pour bleach in the water. But they went to war because of that, you know. Damn, I got it up twice. Let me see. And of course, you know,
Those who could not find jobs were forced to become indentured servants. Some Black loyalists were even kidnapped and sold into slavery once again. David George, a Black loyalist and Baptist preacher, founded a church in Shelburne shortly following his arrival in Nova Scotia. He attracted both white and Black churchgoers. Tension started to grow when George began baptizing white citizens and came to a head when he baptized a white woman. On July 26, 1784, 40 disbanded white loyalists tore down George's home and about 20 homes of Black loyalists in the area. The Shelburne riot is considered the first race riot in North America. George continued to preach, but the white loyalists returned and beat him with sticks, chasing him.
But it's not, though.
The rioting
There's hundreds of them.
days with trips into the Black communities, lasting into August when soldiers were dispatched to deal with the issue. As a result,
See, I guess they classify it as the first one, and because that was after that quote unquote Revolutionary War or whatever. So I guess that's why they be saying that. Just be like, they classify. Well, I ain't gonna get into that right now.
a dusk to dawn curfew was issued for all Black citizens, and the Black loyalists were now completely left out of land deals. The victims of the Shelburne riot were being punished. Soon after, a famine forced many Black loyalists to become indentured servants, a form of slavery in which a person would enter into a contract to work for several years in exchange for housing and rations. Jesse Robertson, who wrote an article about the Shelburne riot, notes that, quote, the conditions were startlingly similar to the slavery from which they had escaped, end quote. Unfortunately, as many Black loyalists could not read, some were tricked into signing contracts.
Wow. Eerily similar. You meet one cracker, you meet them all. I don't care what part of Europe he's from, or what planet, or what realm, or whatever he's from. Now, this was the Black people that chose to roll with the British, you know what I'm saying? Because we often don't talk about their story there. So, okay. Now, the Black people now, of course, George Washington, for 1 minute, he said one thing, but then as soon as he won it, what he did was pass this Fugitive Slave Act, which led to mostly children being kidnapped, Black children being kidnapped. This is the things that you get after serving their country to help them get their freedom, right? Because they was fighting for taxes, and this is what they was doing to us. Fighting, we helped them not have to pay. Well, some would say they still do, and some would say they don't. But we helped them. We at least fought a war to help them not pay taxes to them. And in the meantime, right after that, the very dude passed the law, the Fugitive Slave Act, that opened it up for countless people to start being kidnapped. And I guess you see that movie 12 Years a Slave or whatever, that's one story of it. But most of it was children who was being kidnapped. And just like they used to, that was a business, the black people that was in Canada, they would call them runaways. They would kidnap them, take them back down to quote unquote America and sells them.
Today in the Daily Dose, the Fugitive Slave Act of 1793. Beginning as early as 1643, fugitive slave laws began dotting colonial law books, including a 1705 law in New York designed to prevent runaway slaves from escaping to freedom in Canada, while Maryland and Virginia passed laws that offered bounties for the capture and safe return of runaway slaves. Yet by the start of the Constitutional Convention of 1787, most northern states had abolished slavery entirely, obliging southern politicians attending the convention to insist on a fugitive slave clause to the U.S. Constitution, under the fear that free states would become a constitutional safe haven for runaway slaves. As abolitionist sentiment continued to rise in northern states throughout the late 1780s and early 1790s, many northern anti-slavery activists began to petition Congress for an outright ban on slavery in North America, leading Southern legislators to demand passage of the Fugitive Slave Act of 1793. While much of the Fugitive Slave Clause to the Constitution could be found in the new Fugitive Slave Act, the later document decreed that slave owners or their agents had the right to search for their missing human property within free states, while imposing a $500 penalty on any person caught harboring or concealing a runaway slave. After its passage, the Fugitive Slave Act of 1793 received immediate pushback from northern anti-slavery factions.
Oh yeah, thanks a lot for serving in this Revolutionary War. And then we could go through each war in history, right? And shit, y'all know about the Star Spangled Banner one in 1814, right? And then of course you have black Union soldiers who went from slavery to free during the Civil War. As so they say.
African Americans were anxious to join the fight. An act of Congress made it legal.
It declared for
now, and I'll just give you the fast forward thing here. Abraham Lincoln found himself in the same situation, right? Because you know how they be like, oh, it was about to, like how they simplify the states' rights and all this other stuff. Now, the North wanted in because they wanted to industrialize, but the money was enslaved labor, especially in plantations with cotton, tobacco, and all of this stuff. And the South was raking in all this money. And now the North and Abraham Lincoln, like, listen, I don't care what you do, but we need some of this money so we can build up our infrastructure, right? That's what they wanted to do, right? Build up their infrastructure. But the people in the South was like, no, these is our slaves and this is our money, damn it. And so they was like, well, listen, if you ain't gonna give up the money, I'm gonna take them slaves from you then. How about that? And so that's why they got to fighting, right? And then the South was actually beating the hell out of them, right? Because they had money and all of this other stuff. And the North did not want to arm black people, period, right? Because nothing scarier than a Negro with a gun, right? Let me tell you. But once the North start losing, he realized, he was like, yo, he took a page out of George Washington's book, all right? Said, I don't care if you free, but we're gonna offer this if you come join and help us fight. And then he started winning this war. Right? This is why, like, we believed it, you know what I'm saying? I can understand maybe a little bit, but I mean, after 1800, I'm like, damn, one cracker is just like all of them. But they didn't have the ability to know or read or do all of the stuff that we did that I have access to. You know what I'm saying? So, but all he did was Abraham Lincoln just took a play out of George Washington's book where he losing the war. So what he did to sabotage them, and then even the South eventually had to try to get black people to join, but by then it was too late, and only people like First Rifleman and them is going to join the Confederate army. You know.
Ever free the soldier that enlisted. So if you enlisted, you were forever free. Also, it said that your mother, your wife, and your children were forever free.
Trading shackles for uniforms, the lash for the gun. At last, African Americans were able to fight for their own people.
All right. Now, there's a lot I can say about this, and y'all can do yours, and because y'all gonna learn. This is what they gonna like. Yeah, we finally able to fight. You know, no, then they gonna leave out the whole context about the whole situation, right? But that's the truth about what happened, right? You know, that's why you can find, and they didn't even want black people to be free here. You know what I'm saying? They wanted black people to go to another colony in Africa and still pay taxes to them on top of that. So there's many things I can say about um this Civil War thing, but one thing I can show you, thanks to the black veterans, was one thing it led to was this, you know.
March toward the sea, ordered a bridge to be built over on December 9th.
Now, okay, so yeah, now as the North and Abraham Lincoln started decimating the South because the black soldiers was joining and stuff like that, um, he was telling them to stop freeing so many slaves because he didn't really want to lose them. He wanted them to agree to his terms to taxation. You know what I'm saying? He didn't want them to actually free the slaves. And that's why he didn't free the ones who he had access to free. But anyway, it led to this, you know, where what the Union Army did. Y'all look up this Ebenezer Creek massacre, and there could be a longer video on this, a better one. So y'all look this up on your own, but whatever.
On December 9th, 1864, General Jefferson Davis, who was the United States Army, who was a part of Sherman's march toward the sea, ordered a bridge to be built over a creeky area, a watery area in Georgia as they were making their march toward the sea. Some 10,000 African Americans had attached themselves to General Davis's corps, if you will, trying to save themselves from enslavement. When he got to this creeky part called Ebenezer Creek, he actually ordered his people to build the bridge and to order the African Americans to stay on the other side of the creek as the army passed over. Once the United States Army got over, they pulled up the bridge and they left the people there to die. The people were then attacked by Confederate forces from behind as they attacked them on the other side of the creek. And many people, men, women, and children, mostly women and children, went into the creek, went into the water to their deaths. Oh, to remember the day and remember the soldiers and the
Now she super simplified this. Now I want you to get a context of how sick they are, though. You know, now they was going through this, and they was getting the able-bodied black men to still do the labor, right? But black people, I guess, was willing to do it because it's better than the plantation they was on, right? And they got to this creek, Ebenezer Creek, and he got mostly the black people to build a bridge across, right? And but they realized that the Confederate Army group troops was closing in on them, and so he got his own troops to build them. Now they got all of the people who was doing the work to go on the other side because they was building the bridge. Now as soon as and then he told them and they made the women and children stay behind, and the elderly and the men who couldn't actually do the labor and stuff like that, they told them to stay behind. Let us take the horses and all the weapons and stuff across. And as soon as they got across, he had them to blow up the bridge, leaving all of the black people there. And they sat there and watched them to get slaughtered. Mostly women, children, elderly, sickly. And when the Confederates rolled up, all right, they just start slaughtering them. And they was like, a lot of people who couldn't even swim was jumping in the water to try to get away from being like trampled and killed and like tortured and all sorts of stuff, right? And when I tell you the lesser of two evils, I'm not just making it up. I'm not coming out of nowhere. I'm saying north, south, east, west, Democrat, it doesn't matter. Like one boss is no different than any of the rest of them. You know what I'm saying? And of course, that led to that whole 40 acres and the mule conversation. Because after that, they had the conversation like, "Oh, what we're gonna do about this?" And you can look this up. But I guess General Sherman, I think, I don't know, somebody went down there to have a meeting with black people at the church, leaders in the black community to discuss what they were going to do. And this is when the subject of reparations came up in the first place.
State what you understand by slavery and the freedom that was to be given by the President's proclamation.
Slavery is the receiving by irresistible power the work of another man, and not by his consent. This freedom, as I understand it, promised by the proclamation, is taking us from under the yoke of bondage and placing us where we can reap the fruit of our labor, take care of ourselves, and help the government maintain our freedom.
State in what manner you think you can take care of yourself, and how can you best assist the government in maintaining your freedom?
We can best.
I probably, if I was on, well, like, hold on, yo, but how we going? The government was actually responsible and sanctioned our unfreement, our enslavement. It was actually the government that did it. So why would we rely on this? Give us our. Well, they said it, but so I guess somebody in the room did say it. So
Let's take care of ourselves by having land, turn it, till it by our own labor. That is the labor of our women, children, and old men. And we can soon maintain ourselves and have something to spare. To assist the government, our young men should enlist in the service of the government and serve in such a manner as they may be wanted.
Whoa. I don't know about service. Whoa. Now, the army to serve. Now, generally, Europeans are warmongers who are psychopathic and bloodthirsty, and they fight everybody. And generally, it's to enslave and take stuff, especially people that look like us. That's why we're here now. I don't know about agreeing to that. You know what I'm saying? I ain't finna serve in nobody's army. The black man ain't got no place in the white man's army, boy.
On land until we can buy it and make it our own.
State in what manner you would rather live, whether scattered among the whites or in colonies by yourselves. Whether scattered among the whites.
Dang, I was on mute this whole time. But I was saying, for those who's listening, and I guess if you listen later, say it in the comments, you know what I'm saying? Or say it in the chat, This is a great question, right? state, in which manner would you rather live? Right? In communities by yourselves, lifting yourselves up, doing your own thing, or scattered amongst them? You tell me, which state would you rather live in? I know the answer.
Whether
Okay.
scattered among the whites or in colonies by yourselves.
Let's hear their answer.
I would prefer to live by ourselves, for there's a prejudice against us in the South that will take years to get over. But I don't know that I can answer for my brethren.
Now, presidents in the world, let's be honest here. Now, you hear they said they would rather live by themselves, have their own stuff, you know what I'm saying? Do their own thing. And this is where this whole 40 acres and a mule thing come from, right? What's going on, Consider? I was showing you live earlier. Oh, that's what's up. That's what's up. I appreciate it. Shouts out to Consider. And yeah, I was showing, it looks nice. And then the sky is like, it looks super blue in your video. So shouts out to Consider. So yeah, and now, and that's what I'm saying. Like they was like, state which way you would. We said we rather live in communities by ourselves because we know Neanderthals, crackers, Peckerwoods, whatever you want to call them, are gonna be who they are, not scattered amongst them. Because you know what else gets scattered? Our money, our intellect, right? As far as just community, as far as building with each other, right? Our loyalty, because if there's one thing we're gonna do is to die to defend somebody else's nation. But anyway, moving on. Well, of course, we go to the 90s and then black people being up in the Vietnam War, even though they was in segregated camps. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know why you go to war and you in a damn segregated
America's
camp.
history.
You can't gotta go to the bathroom on the side of the road somewhere, when you come back from war.
It's not just about the big events. It's also about the people who share soil with a significant toll on African Americans.
Vietnam. He questions whether the real war is in Vietnam or America, in Saigon or...
Now, I'm not gonna say ain't no Viet Cong ever called me no N-word, because they probably have. I'm gonna be honest with you. All right. I'm not gonna tell you that. They probably have, right? And they probably got their time. As my sister said earlier in the chat, and they over in Africa right now too. You know what I'm saying? At least my sister is over there considering trying to get her piece,
Harlem. After the abolition of slavery and the axing of the anti-black laws like Jim Crow laws, America was still grappling
after.
tensions.
That's funny.
Now, throw in a brewing conflict in Vietnam, a war that had nothing to do with American citizens, fought on foreign soil with a significant toll on African American lives. You heard it right. The war that saw 7,243 black soldiers pay the ultimate price wasn't just...
And listen, if I talked about every war, we'll be here forever, because that's what Europeans do. You name me a year and a time where Europeans have not been at war since they've been on this planet. You tell me. I'm just giving a brief history for Veterans Day about... Now imagine if we put a fraction of this energy into ourselves and to defending ourselves and having our own damn army. It'll be over. Nobody could come. Because the first thing people will say, well, yeah, even if we do that and build our stuff, they'll get jealous and come destroy it. Well, yeah, that's why you have you done defended America. You done defended democracy. Why don't you defend yourself? It's crazy. They can't touch you. Be honest with you. Most of them wasn't destroyed because they just came in and killed you. They didn't just come in and conquer you by whatever. Yeah, they had guns, but they still had to use first they tried to use missionaries. they used the white girl, and when worse come to worse, they used another group of black people, because even with their weapons and all of that stuff, like, we was not stupid. You know what I'm saying? You use terrain, you use different advantages. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they use gunpowder for destruction, unlike everybody else, you know? But they use deception, you know what I'm saying? And they use our love and to want to be a part of everybody's culture and to welcome everybody into ours.
About communism
Crazy.
versus
It's
democracy.
insanity.
It was also about race, identity, and the struggle for equality.
In Southeast Asia, between 1966 and 1969, blacks accounted for more than 10% of military personnel.
Dr. Martin Luther King famously called it a white man's war, but a black man's fight. And the numbers don't lie. Despite making up just 12%
Oh man, what is the black
of
man's
the
fight?
population, African Americans accounted for a staggering 24% of fatal casualties in Vietnam. Why did more black soldiers perish than their white counterparts? Join us as we peel back the layers of history. Involvement can be traced back to the 1700s, March 5th, 1770, to be precise. Massachusetts was a
We
British,
talked about that, right?
yet units like the Harlem Hellfighters showcased exceptional
Oh, that's what I left out. Oh no, I didn't leave them out.
valor.
We'll
In World
get
War II,
we'll get back
although
to that
African
era.
Americans served admirably, they still faced segregation in units like the Marine Corps. Despite President Truman's efforts to integrate the military in 1947, resistance persisted until progress was made in 1949. The transition from
You didn't help
segregation
Israel
to
get
integration
land from
progressed
Arabs who
slowly,
stole
and
land
the
from
rising
you.
acceptance of
Didn't
African
even fight to get the land
military
back. You helped them get land for the
Although discrimination was still
shysters.
present when the U.S. Army went to war in Vietnam, black and white soldiers were fully integrated. However, for African American soldiers, the war wasn't just about combating the Viet Cong in Saigon. It was about confronting the enemy within, the prejudice and discrimination that persisted despite the promise of integration. In the heat of the battle, they battled not just for victory, but for their
So it sounded like they took a page out of the same old playbook. When they get down, then they need you to fight their wars for them. And we know America probably about to get into wars now. I don't think it's ever been a world war, because black people haven't been involved yet. That's World War One. It might end at World War Three, but we haven't had one yet, because what was the African representation in World War One? And we was most of the we was majority of the population. Anyway.
was in a UH-ID Huey helicopter that went down in Vietnam. The pilot was trapped in the wreckage, but Cornish wasn't. With the helicopter,
Right. So, thanks to that, and even today we still begging, or I ain't gonna say begging because you fought, but
life-changing benefits to Media II
what do you
veterans,
think?
but not all got them equally. While white veterans used it to buy homes and go to college, many African American veterans were blocked by racism. Banks denied them home loans. Colleges, especially in the South, refused black students. Though the GI Bill could have narrowed the wealth gap, it actually made it worse, fueling decades of inequality. The law was the same for all, but access, that was anything but equal. The GI Bill was a promise, broken for many black heroes. Did you know the GI Bill promised life-changing benefits to Media II veterans, but not?
Tonight, there are a number of veterans in the United States that say they are unhappy with the government. Black veterans returning home from their service say discrimination at the VA kept them from getting the benefits that they deserve. Now, the VA doesn't know how many of America's more than 2 million black vets may have been shorted.
Tonight, in collaboration with NBC
Probably all of
journalists
them,
across the
except
country,
for like
we
5.
investigate the allegations and shortfalls at the Veterans Administration, and we question top lawmakers about what they plan to do to fix it. Here's senior investigative reporter Begad Shaban.
All right, 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 all right. So let's talk about something more positive, right? Because we still complaining to this day. This is thanks you get for serving. Right? This is why I don't say thank you for your service, because we don't have no we don't have no army. So when you serve me, I will say thank you for your service, and I'll try to serve you back. But have black veteran, and this is why movies like Spook Who Sat by the Door. You know what I'm saying? I guess you can look at that, right? Now, have black veterans protected black communities. Now, black veterans have protected black communities by playing a crucial role in many movements, organizing many events, and challenging systematic racism. Now, what they will leave out is how many black veterans came home from wars, Revolutionary War, all of these wars, right? Where they had to depend on black people. Well, now those black veterans came home with guns. So when somebody would roll up and try to take their children, now they have a gun to protect themselves. And let me tell you something, black people was definitely about that life, right? And we can go on about different eras and how black men from the Revolutionary War stopped black lynchings, right? Right. They try to be like there's no evidence of it. But yeah, that is not true, right? And of course we could talk about different events throughout history, but one of them was the Houston race riot of
Called to serve a
there's always
country
a
that
riot
didn't
when black
serve us.
people actually
In
fighting back, right?
1917, over 150 black soldiers from the 24th Infantry Regiment were stationed in Houston, Texas, a city steeped in Jim Crow segregation and white supremacy. These men wore the uniform of the United States Army, but to many in Houston, that uniform was a threat. They came to build, to protect, to serve. But what they faced was hatred, humiliation, and ultimately, death. The Houston riot wasn't just a violent clash. It was a cry for dignity, a warning, and a story history tried to erase. In April 1917, the United States entered World War I. The nation needed soldiers. It turned to its black citizens, who, despite living under the brutal rule of Jim Crow, answered the call to serve. Among them was the 24th Infantry Regiment, an all-black unit with a proud record dating back to the Indian Wars and the Spanish-American War. They were seasoned, disciplined, and unwanted by many. In July, the regiment was dispatched to Houston to guard the construction of Camp Logan, a new training base. But what awaited them was not camaraderie, it was contempt. Houston in 1917 was a tinderbox. Segregation was law, racial violence was routine, and the sight of proud black men in uniform walking the streets ignited rage in the white population. The soldiers were subjected to daily abuse. They were beaten, arrested, and spat on, for no other reason than wearing the uniform of the U.S. Army. The final spark came on August 23rd. A black soldier, Private Alonzo Edwards, tried to stop police officers from assaulting a black woman. For his courage, he was pistol whipped and thrown into jail. News spread like wildfire. Rumors swirled that a white mob was coming for the soldiers next. Fear met fury. And then came the march. Over 100 soldiers armed themselves and left Camp Logan, believing they were heading into a fight for survival. As they entered Houston, panic erupted. Gunfire rang out. Chaos overtook the city. By night's end, 15 white civilians and law enforcement officers lay dead. 4 black soldiers were also killed. Martial law was declared. The army acted swiftly and mercilessly. Over 60 black soldiers were arrested. 3 mass court-martials followed.
Now, it's still the largest trial that most people tried at one time in history, right? But listen, this soldier saw the police harassing this black woman and stood up to him, because we like to be like we had the courage. Our ancestors actually stood up to them, looked them in the face, you know what I'm saying? Right? And he went over there and protected a black woman who was being harassed by the police. And so the police got mad and tried to pistol whip him after the fight, and they arrested him. And when they heard about that and heard they was going to try to do some kind of riot or whatever or massacre on them, the brothers got mad and was like, yo, we gonna defend ourselves, right? Because this is the point. We defend every single thing. We gonna defend democracy. But when it comes to talk about building our own world, they're just gonna come for us. Well, why don't we defend it the way that we've defended every other group then? Because if they come for some Arabs, we gonna defend that. Talk about some free Palestine and stuff like that. If they come after some Chinese, we gonna go defend them. How about you defend yourself for once, right? And this brother defended himself. This black woman then defended himself, and then they went across through the community, right, to the people who were supposed to be rolling up on them, one by one, gunning them down, right, doing what they had to do to survive. Now they don't know if it was 100 of them or not. They don't know how many of them, because one thing that these brothers did was kept their mouth shut, right? Some people got charged and probably was executed who had nothing to do with it. And some people who was involved probably was never charged because nobody said nothing. They kept their mouth shut. They didn't snitch on each other. They just protected each other. You know? And of course, 1919, when after World War One, and this is one of my favorite because it's the new Negro generation. Now that I guess after I said I'd never heard nobody even refer to it, but now I see people refer to it. I even saw it in the museum, but they try to mix it up with the Harlem Renaissance thing, which was a whole nother thing. The new Negro movement was like, yo, we ain't taking it. They was saying the same thing, that we ain't our ancestors. We ain't taking it no more. This is a new generation, right? They came home from World War One, right after defending America again, and realized they were still being lynched, and they were stopping black men, black women, black children from being lynched. That's the story that they won't tell you. How many people were stopped from being lynched because black veterans came together? How many black communities was protected? You don't think they was coming after the black communities back then? Most of them wasn't burned down. They had to build the highways through them. They use integration, in my opinion. It's not my opinion. I can base it on a lot of stuff, but integration was their move to stop black movements. And when they came back from World War One and this new Negro movement, oh dang, thank you, Cassandra. I appreciate that. Like they was not having it, right? That's why they had the red summer of 1919, right? You know what was red about it? They was spilling their blood. That's what they was doing, right? The Great Resistance, you know what I'm saying?
The year 1919 was one of the most volatile in our nation's history as riots erupted.
What is the question about?
City.
In the moment right after the war, at the height of the Great Migration, when the complexion of American cities is drastically being transformed, white people attack.
All that year, there were incidents in at least 26 cities and towns across the country. But it was Chicago that would see some of the worst of the violence.
Chicago goes through a municipal election in 1919. The Republican Party at that point enjoyed most of the support from African American voters. This black constituency was growing in Chicago, but was still something like 3% of the population. But the fact that 3% was concentrated in two.
All right, let me see. That was a little bit too long, you know.
In the summer of 1919, America burned its citizens alive. They had
Yeah, if you look it up, you know what I'm saying, during the 1960s, there was actually more riots the year before Martin Luther King got killed. You know what I'm saying? It was at that point where they was having the Watts riots and all of that other stuff, right? And they've used videos of them dragging white people out of the cars, right? And then also you can couple that when you look up videos like the art of selling the Negro, right? How to integrate this Negro money into our communities. You know what I'm saying? It's not that we live, because we still live in segregated communities. We still live in black areas, which is generally poor. But what they did was integrate your money, your loyalty. And then you have presidents like the good old LBJ talking about I'll have these N words voting Democrat for the next 200 years. And damn, it's been like 80 or however many years it's been, right? I mean, it don't come out of nowhere, right? Because you look at who was on the forefront of that, right? Most of the people, even the Brown versus Board of Education, if you look at the case, the brother, he was trying to get transportation for his daughter because his 6-year-old had to walk like 5-6 miles in the morning and home from school, right? They were saying they wanted, if you're going to take our tax money, then you have to give us buses too. It was not to go to their schools, right? If you look up the case with Thurgood Marshall, this was, and Clarence Thomas is a reason why Clarence Thomas followed Thurgood Marshall, right? Because Thurgood Marshall went back and said, because they said separate but equal, but it wasn't. But they was saying, well, MLK and the boycott movement. What are you talking about? Oh yeah, that's a part of it. They boycotted the buses, but it's not that like, and that's business. You know what I'm saying? Just like the whole Brown versus Board of Education. It was the train company that actually sued, that had Plessy versus Ferguson, right? Where the dude was actually a white dude, but he was like 7/8 white, because the train company didn't want to have to make another car for white people, and just for black people. You know what I'm saying? So they tried to sue for like business purposes. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, the flaw with the boycott is that they didn't put that resources into making their own bus. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean what I'm trying to tell you. They didn't actually integrate the schools, and then they could still to this day, right? It was about business. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it wasn't about going to a white school though. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing. That was NAACP's point, right? That's when Thurgood Marshall came along, because they won their original case, but Thurgood Marshall came back and was like, no, it cannot be fair unless we go to white institutions, because we cannot have the same connects if we don't go to white institutions. But I disagree with that. You know what I'm saying? You don't need them to build your own stuff. You know what I'm saying? You need them to stop taking your tax money first and foremost, stop killing you, of course. But when it comes to that, you're gonna have to do that. Say what? Anyway.
Returned from the war. Black veterans, heroes of the Great War, came home in uniform, medals on their
You
chest.
can come on here too,
In the
Kofi. I
eyes
have
of
the
white
link in there.
America, they were still
It's at the
just a
top.
threat. What followed was not peace.
But I ain't gonna be on here long either, though.
Homes set ablaze, churches torn down, innocent
You
families
can ask me, so I
beaten
can
and
stop.
drowned. No justice followed. Their stories are buried beneath the rubble. Their names are lost to silence, but their pain still echoes. The Red Summer was not a riot. It was a reckoning. And if we do not remember it, we risk repeating it.
But anyway, I was talking about the new Negro movement. That's one of my favorite generations, you know what I'm saying? Because they were saying the same thing, which I disagree with. People say we are not our ancestors and stuff like that, because I don't think we have the courage to stand up the way that they did because brothers stopped, you know, a lot of people from being lynched. They protected the churches and all of that stuff. They used guns and stuff. No, yeah, they to stop, yeah, the militancy that was going on because by the 1965, 66, and all that stuff, most black people was kind of off of the MLK riot thing, and that's when they would fly him out to try to calm down different race riots that was happening. Because if you look it up, in 1967, there was actually more race riots because, like I said, black people was fed up around that time, you know, and that's when you was getting different organizations and like is the reason why you ain't seeing different now. Some people would criticize like Black Panthers, but this is just an example, right? Where you had militant black things like the Deacons of Defense and certain things like that. All of that stuff was going on during that time, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, and then after Martin Luther King got shot, you know, and then like, you know, Malcolm X had got shot and all that stuff. So anyway, and this is another veteran. I just like this story because this brother defended his mother, you know what I'm saying? And it is what it is, you know.
In the heart of Columbia, Tennessee, East 8th Street, a place called The Bottom, once thrived as a vibrant black business district, a beacon of entrepreneurial spirit.
Bro, I'm telling you, Thurgood Marshall, I got a problem with Thurgood Marshall. He is Clarence Thomas. Clarence is a reason why Clarence Thomas followed him. I mean, you know, he is no Thurgood Marshall, but that's what I'm saying. And I ain't gonna go into it, but I don't know if Thurgood Marshall got some of that mixed energy within himself too. But a lot of that stuff was NAACP pushing a lot of that stuff. A lot of black people didn't even agree with that. Like I said, like they was talking about their children having to walk home like 5 miles, 6 miles, their 6-year-old child, while these white kids going to buses, but you taking my tax money? Like either you're gonna give us buses or stop taking our tax money. They wasn't trying to go to white schools and integrate and stuff like that. And yeah, and to have and one thing that integration did was destroy, like, yeah, we know that a lot of black students went to whatever, but what happened to all of the black teachers? Why is it such a crisis on black male teachers since then? Like, and then you go to the next generation where you had the whole feminist movement and you know, you don't need a man and the independent thing followed by the crack epidemic. Like it was Project 1965, you know, Project 1967 integration, you know what I'm saying? So
and community pride. This historic hub, nestled in the shadows of downtown, was the epicenter of the pivotal 1946 Columbia race riot, a watershed moment in post-World War II America. Columbia, Tennessee, a city once woven with Southern charm and long-term hard work of aspiring black men and women, was brought down to ashes and rubble by only 2 fateful nights of unrelenting terror. Homes, once warm and welcoming, all lay in smoldering ruins, their charred remains a haunting testament to the destruction. Main Street, once the pulsing heart of the community, was transformed into a desolate expanse of shattered glass and splintered wood when Mrs. Stevenson didn't go and insisted on getting.
all right, so I would like for you to hear that story. Oh yeah, I agree with that part. I agree with that. That but I do think that influence of us going, this is why I mess with Bakari when I be telling him his generation dropped the ball. I don't really believe he dropped the ball because it wasn't his fault. But if you look at it, his generation was the very first generation to get taught by mostly white teachers, right? You know what I'm saying? And I don't know. I can't say because maybe we always had the white man's ISIS code, or maybe only some of us do. But I think that we got thoroughly ingrained into you know what I'm saying, the white man's ice is colder during that era, in my opinion. Like I said, it could be have always been that because we was dancing around the fires in the 1400s, said, come on in, pale face, you know what I'm saying? And to this day, we still welcome them to the cookout. But I do think that that and us going to their schools to stop us like from having black teachers and, you know, I do think that that played a huge role in where we are today as far as our education, because their education system, even for their own children, is just to make them workers. You know what I'm saying? It's not to get you to do anything specifically. Now, if you child in private schools, they teaching them how to run business, how to budget monies, how to do all of this stuff at a young age. But the public school system is just to make you go to work every day. You know what I'm saying? The whole involuntary servitude, you know? I mean, it's no different from that nonsense when people try to be like Bacon's Rebellion and all this other stuff to then they did this to stop. No, like that's a whole nother conversation. And I guess to wrap it up, and this is the last thing. But I definitely appreciate you for coming through. But I mean, I mean I understand, brother, but do you see what I'm saying? Like it doesn't come out of nowhere. Like they don't make moves for nothing, you know?
Not just one of injustice. Not just give me a few moments to set the stage for you with some historical context. McIntosh County wasn't like most counties in Georgia. It was different. And that difference went all the way back to the end of slavery. When the Civil War ended and the plantation economy broke apart, the Cotton Kings faded. In their place rose timber and turpentine and naval stores. Those industries ran on black labor. But in McIntosh, black labor wasn't just labor. It was power. 80% of the population was black. In the town of Darien, over 1,000 of the 1,700 residents were black. And they weren't just workers. They were landowners.
And listen, and I would say this. I agree because MD2 came on here and was like, it wasn't even Bakari's generation that dropped the ball, and I agree with that. It was his parents' generation that dropped the ball because we wanted to be a part of this, and that is Black people's problem. We want to be a part and save democracy all the time, from the beginning to right now. We still talking about saving democracy. You argue with me about saving democracy. You argue with your brother to save somebody else's democracy, quote unquote democracy. Because when has it ever been democratic to you? This is what I'm saying, you know. We go through this time and time again. And like he said, I don't think it was their generation that dropped the ball. It was probably their parents, you know what I'm saying? Because somehow we can pray for them. Somehow we can love them enough to somehow not be who they are. And it's this weakness that's what pisses me off about Black people, period. Right? Just period. And the lack of knowledge that we even have. Because you know what Black people, first thing they gonna say is, if we ever build this, then they just gonna come and do this. Well, be ready for it then. If you know they're gonna do that, then be prepared. What the hell? So if they gonna come do it, so what, you just gonna be their slave forever? Yo, it's this weak ass mindset, but then you be ready to fight to go save they damn system. That is my problem. And I get a lot of people have a lack of information, but a lot of people suffer from what I would call the John Brown complex. Yeah, a lot of white Jews and some Black women. And I had a couple Black women that was my teacher. I had like probably 2 Black men in my whole life that was my teacher. And one of them was like an old Black man. And yeah, a lot of shysters are teachers, especially in New York. And that's a whole nother conversation um, about the shysters in New York and their history there. But Yeah, I mean, it's not by accident, right? That Americans is considered dumb and our education system is considered poor. And well, not to say our, because their education is considered poor. I don't have one. I don't even have one. So it's not by accident, you know? It's the same thing they do to the poor trash crackers, you know what I'm saying? It's the same thing. But anyway, I don't know. I guess I'm done. Unless somebody want to say something, you're definitely welcome to come on and say something. But other than that, I guess I'll just be done. Yeah, that's what's up. That's what's up. And shouts out to your wife for being a teacher because we need more black women to be teachers. You know what I'm saying? And we need to support black schools and all of that stuff. You know. And thank you. I appreciate that. You know. And yeah, that's what we talked about before, the black curriculum and especially black curriculums in HBCUs. Oh, MD2, what up, my brother?
Hey, brother Forecast, always good to listen to you. It's after decades and decades, sometimes you just you never stop learning. That's one thing I never do is stop learning. And one thing I like to get through a lot of our folks' heads, because we're still in this mindset of one, the collective we, and then the collective our. When I say the collective our, I'm talking about a lot of brothers and sisters are still thinking that they're part of a United Snakes society. Okay, they still think that they're, this is our government, as Malcolm X said, or our education, or our whatever. And it's understandable why a lot of our folk just haven't learned, don't want to learn, incapable of learning, or neglecting to learn that United States is not a country. It is not ours. It is not a place for us. It's not a home. It's a place where individuals reside to compete. That's all this place is. They call America Kaka. It is not a home. It's not a country. It's not a place where we can, go ahead, settle down and retire. No, it's not. It'll never be your home. Even, quote unquote, for lack of a better term, these Neanderthals, whether they're the Donald Trumps or Joe Bidens, no, it is not their home. What they do is they set up the way to compete against other nations, other folks, other races, or whatever else. And then they repatriate that money back to their own, or they repatriate that resource back to their own. So the thing is, Brother Forecast, like I said, that's the collective our. A lot of individuals that look like us, I call it the epigenetic we, or the mitochondrial we. A lot of folks that look like us, black folks, for lack of a better term, are continually thinking that this is our home. I've never seen a mouse make a home in a snake's den. It doesn't work that way. It's irresponsible and it's madness. This is a place to compete. This is a place where you are always at war with someone else who is not of your culture, your race, your religion, your thinking, or whatever it is. It's just the nature of of this so-called territory that was stolen, 500 years ago. But anyways, I can understand a lot of folks' frustration, a lot of angst in terms of, look, these folks haven't learned. We go in and start thinking of the generations that are before us and the problems that were set up. This is centuries and generations of indoctrination. And I understand where that comes from. And it took decades to really, really figure this out, because even my mom, and she's, almost 90 years old, we go into a lot of intellectual conversations, and I still hear that in her voice of that indoctrination, being beholden to a system or a so-called society, which really isn't a society in the first place. I feel it, I hear it, and it's something that I can't really pass blame on. I could say I understand it, because that's that indoctrination that has been into we've been beaten into it. We were, everything from praying to get into it, trying to assimilate into it, doesn't matter. The indoctrination is deep. So the thing is, it took years to really, really develop a mindset of, I won't say isolation, I won't say separatism, I'll just say common sense. And here's what I mean, Brother Forecast. The thing is, after seeing the way that United Snakes runs not only itself, but runs its game, for lack of a better term, or its power over everyone else, even those that are in charge know that there are no such thing as laws and rules. Okay, they know that anyone that follows it is insane. Because they know that it's a competitive. It's like You know, in the lake over there or in the Nile River where you get crocodiles or whatnot, they do not follow rules when it comes to trying to eat. It's like, hey, self-preservation. Wildebeest do not follow rules when they're trying to hide. I gotta get the hell out of here because something's going to eat me. What happened is you have this, lack of a better term, Nile River, where you have these two-legged crocodiles, you know, and two-legged wildebeest that still think that they could go ahead and, you know, get along or live amongst each other, live comfortable. It'll never be that way. Never has been, never will be, and never should be. The thing is, Brother Forecast, is it's a thing of, and it took, like I said, years and years of just seeing how things are run. I could give you either a microcosm of it or a macrocosm of it. The micro would be even current events. You know, you have individuals that are so-called running a so-called country, or a flea market, as I call it, that are all lawbreakers. You know, they break the own laws that they're supposed to be upholding. You know, whether it's, you know, dining with an Al-Qaeda terrorist, you know, that beheaded their own soldiers. It doesn't matter. You know, the thing is I tend to think that hopefully this mindset that I have will also go ahead and pervade the mindsets of other individuals, that it'll get in their mind saying, wait a minute, this is not a country. This is a place to compete. This is a place to you know, hopefully recognize that this is a war zone. And to do whatever it is in a war zone, that, you know, it is what it is, you know, that, you know, for self-preservation. Now, when I talked about, I used another term called the collective we. The first was the collective our, and that's a mindset of individuals that thinking that they're all part of this homogenous society, which does not exist. It's a flea market. It's a Thucydides trap. It's a cage match. Then I brought up the other term of the collective we, or what I call the epigenetic we, or the mitochondrial we. In other words, folks that come from our race, but yet there is no solidarity. Okay, whether it's, you know, the thinking, the priority of self-preservation, the priority of even self-respect is about as diverse as the stars in the sky. What I mean by that is other races have a collective we. It's not as diverse. Even though they have their individualistic mindsets or whatever else, they know for self-preservation, they have the collective we. And that's their race. With our race, not just in the United States, I'm talking globally as African people, we don't have the collective we as a priority as others have their collective we. Like I said, everything from self-preservation to self-respect to, you name it, it's about as diverse as the trees on the planet. You know, so therefore it's like trying to herd cats and get a bunch of herd a bunch of kittens and trying to get them to walk in line. It's damn near impossible. The thing is the collective we, for lack of a better term, is those who are really concentrated on the priorities of African people being competitive and winning in this game. That's the collective we that I started to go ahead and you know, for lack of a better term, I started to align myself with. You know, those that know that, hey, there might be a collective we that's about as diverse, and, you know, you got them from the Candace Owens to the, you know, to the RBG or whatever. It doesn't matter. They, you know, it's again, the priority for self-preservation is, you know, is all over the place. But the thing is I started to look at for myself the prioritization of those of the collective we that know that, hey, we're in a fight for survival. We're in a fight to control and conquer. It's a cage match, and we fight to the death. I don't care who it is. You know, we fight to take, in other words, no laws, rules, dictates, doctrines, protocols, or anything will ever even matter to us, because, hey, this is the Nile River with a bunch of crocodiles. You fight, you kill, or be killed. It's that kind of mindset and that kind of activity that once you start believing in that, then those that are part of your collective we, i.e. those that know that self-preservation is more important, that we prioritize that. Sooner or later, what happened in the past with a lot of, you know, Black folks that have succumbed or indoctrinated to this quote unquote U.S. society, or even those in the future that think that's kumbaya, or those that it doesn't matter to us. It won't matter to those that are on a mission. And that mission is to go ahead, not only survive, but take over this planet. So I know I was very loquacious there, brother Forecast, but I wanted to give you some mindset of something that's just really been with me for the last several years. And hopefully that'll get in other folks' minds as well. But I do appreciate you letting me on to be very, you know, long-winded. I just wanted to give you that, just hopefully that that'll give you something to marinate with, and maybe it'll help.
Yeah, definitely. No, and don't ever apologize, MD2, for any information that you that anything that you say, So you never gotta apologize for that. And nobody gotta apologize for anything you say, But I definitely appreciate the wisdom, And I gotta wrap it up, but I want to show you this because like you was like a lot of us have been in, I don't know what to say, indoctrinated. I can't say indoctrinated because we probably was always like this. Because if I was spiritual, I'd be like, this is God's lesson to teach us that we have to learn that we have no friends. You know what I'm saying? You can't let everybody around your fire, you know. But speaking of people being here, like I want to shout out to Considering. I want to show you MD2. Like she's over there now, and she doing big things, and a lot of people are attached to America and stuff like that. And I want to shout out to her too for like, actually going over there to do what she had to do, and really making moves and still doing businesses and all of this stuff is. And the reason I had her on here is because generational curses. Of course, it's gonna start freezing up now, so I don't know if it's gonna play or not. But anyway, y'all and she said it's cool if y'all can go to her Facebook page so she document her whole thing. I was trying to get you to see like what the skies look like what she was filming MG2, so that's the only reason I was trying to show you real quick to show you what the skies was looking like and like how nice to look over there. But to wrap it up, and the last thing I'll say, and you can comment on that too if you want to, and comment on this if you want to, but why I don't be like, thank you for your service to nobody, because ain't no army defending me. We don't have no damn army. You know what I'm saying? If we had an army, I would say thank you for your service all day, But unfortunately, I don't know. So what do you have to say for our good old veterans out there, maybe too?
I always beat up on two things. That's HBCUs, which is so-called education, or what I call the practical application of information, or what others would call indoctrination. I beat up on the folks that are in HBCUs just because I love them, and I'm talking Black folks. I always beat up on them. In other words, trying to antagonize them into greatness. And the other folks, when you ask me the question, especially veterans, because I have a nephew that's in Air Force. He's in I say there, not but their Air Force right now. And I also beat up on them. Okay. And to antagonize them into greatness. Here's why. I will never say thank you for your service, because who did they serve? Okay. When it comes down to it, I have yet to see any so-called vet that is an African that fought wars against who fought wars against non-Africans, which many of them haven't. I have yet to see one of them put their skills to use to make African military the priority, make African military competitive, and make African military mandatory for our survival. Here's what I mean. I have not seen one so-called vet create an African or Black military. Not one. I'm talking zero. Now, back in the days, of course, during the enslaved Africans, of course, we had Robert F. Williams that, he tried. There's others that definitely, prioritized, hey, we need to, let me do what I can. But the thing is irrespective of what it is, you got all these nations around the world that have some of the most advanced warring that's ever been around in the days of the history of two-legged species. And the only folks that still have not made a spirit to hunt are Black folks. And when I say a spirit to hunt, what country? I don't care if you live in Georgia. If you are a so-called military vet, why are you not making your own guns or a nuke? Clearly, you have the skills. Clearly, you had the passion to go ahead and fight someone else's wars for someone else. So clearly, it's not like you don't have the talent. It's not like but the key is, do you have the will? Do you have the want for survival of Black folks to go ahead and put that skill to use? No matter how marginal or how small and imperceptible that skill is, do you have it? And I have not seen one yet. Clearly, because until we have our own submarines, nukes, and everything else that we've made, and I'm not just talking that we're made in Nigeria, I'm talking that we're made in Mississippi. Until that becomes our priority, or in other words, if you're going hunting and you have to rely on someone else to make you a spear, or you're hunting for someone else's food, then clearly you're not hunting for yourself. Black folks that have been in so-called military, I don't thank them for their service because they're either hunting for someone else to get their food, or they're using someone else's spear to hunt. And like I said, I antagonize for greatness. If you're really about that life, no matter who it is, if you're about that life, you'll be so involved for the right reasons and not for going ahead and being celebritized by hunting, in other words, for fighting someone else's war. That's why I never say thank you for your service, because you didn't serve us, you served someone else. Next thing, when I said about HBCUs, because I like to put that in context. I was looking the other day, and I was looking yesterday at HBCUs that were involved, because I was going to do an entire video on this, because I like to piss them off, especially, I mean, the more I piss them off, the more it'll antagonize them into greatness. There are very few HBCUs that are involved in nuclear research, nuclear engineering. And I had a whole list, and I may do the whole video on it. But I did that because I wanted to see who is into nuclear power. And, if, by some goodwill that a windfall comes my way, who would I invest in? What kind of institutional money could I put in that if there was a college out there or something where Black children, i.e. young folks, are learning, that we'll go ahead and be into energy research, the acquisition of minerals, rare earth, and everything else. And HBCUs, the only way that they're involved is they have to partner with so-called white institutions. In other words, they're using someone else or hunting for someone else's food. And I did a extensive research last night, and I'm still doing a lot of that research to try to find out, hey, all these other colleges and all these other non-African, non-Black colleges are involved in advancing the future that literally will dictate what we do into the future as Black folks, unfortunately. But no HBCUs are even close to be involved, mining, things like that. So I also did research on HBCUs in military. And I said, which ones are involved in the armaments, where you got MIT, UCLA, you've got all these white colleges and Asian colleges, and Jewish colleges that are involved in military armaments. I'm talking about research grants for this, for that, and whatnot. Again, trying to go ahead and educate your tribe to make a spear, because that's all the military, or that's all colleges do, teach you how to make a good spear to hunt. Not one HBCU, not one, is involved in that. So I told myself, I said, yeah, that's indoctrination. So I will continue to beat up on them until, like I said, antagonize them into greatness, because clearly either many are blissfully unaware and don't understand or don't recognize or are very ignorant of this fact, or many are very derelict to duty and want to do the status quo so they can complain on social media about what white folks are doing to us. So anyways, Brother Forecast, thank you so much again. I just wanted to put that out there for you.
Oh, no, that's no. Oh, well, you just made a great point. Like, and also understand, like, yeah, nuclear, like, you could have and you can argue about safety or whatever you want to argue about, but nuclear power to actually have lights and stuff, you run electricity and stuff like that. You can power cities and stuff like that. And all of these things is important. And the truth is, if a meteor was to come to Earth right now, we would have to rely on like Europeans to like save us, and that means we're done, And like Kofi said, like thank you. Black people think I'm being disrespectful when I don't respect vet service. Serving who? Most Black people join the service because it's an easy out financially. No one tells me thank you for your service at my Alpha job, especially not the people that you're making the billions of dollars for. They ain't gonna tell you thank you either. But the issue is, imagine if we put I don't want just a fraction, but imagine if we put just a fraction of the energy that we have expended to love, forgive, be a part of we. More Black people say we to the Dallas Cowboys than they do as Black men. And that's why we've been enslaved 3 times, about to be 4 times in the last 1,000 years. Yo, we haven't made it to 1,000 years yet, and we working on the 4th time being enslaved, y'all. So, and MD2, I can show you now real quick. Shouts out to my sister Cassandra, because and she pointed it out too. Like, she made a good point that it's a lot of Asian people over there in Africa, even right now, getting the resources. Look at this over in where Cassandra is, and y'all subscribe to her. This is our Facebook page. She said it's cool for y'all to look it up. So
Very nice, very nice, very nice. It's not very busy today because we're like, it's still early. But yeah, these are very.
she really like just left MD2. She straight left. She moved. Like, you know, a lot of men be talking, but Cassandra was not playing. She is gone. I was ready to text her, and then I realized it was like 2 a.m. over there. You know.
So that's another story coming soon. There, we just don't.
So it's a lot of development, but guess who's not in on the floor of that?
Just trying to keep healthy and just learning my way around.
No, Cassandra is so.
I am about this walking. It's just like, oh God, really. But hey, it's good for you, right? But yeah, I just wanted to check you out the mall. And of course, they have the parking, I guess, for the people that live in the mall area. A lot of construction going on here. Lots of.
That's what you say, my brother.
You can see that's a lot of good.
Africa
That's
is
nice.
not under our control, so
That's nice. You know, yeah. I'm sorry for cutting in the brother forecast. That it
Absolutely.
looks like it was probably Tanzania or something. I'm digging it. Oh, I'm digging it. You know, my favorites, of course, is, you know, of course, anywhere on the continent. You know, I mean, I love it. You know, Ghana was great. You know, Senegal, you name it, anywhere on the continent. That's where I want my bones to be when I kick the bucket. I want to make sure it's on the continent. You know, brother forecast, if you ever get a chance, and that's why I keep saying the epigenetic we versus the conscious we, or the, you know, or the thinking we. The epigenetic we are like those, like you said, brothers that are into just Dallas Cowboys, you know, but those that are the critical mass of those that are the thinking we are like Sister Cassandra, that are on the ground floor or even in the building period of building something that really matters. Those are the folks that I spend my time trying to listen to and learn from, like Sister Cassandra. Folks that are part of the conscious we that know, hey, I ain't got time to go ahead and be part of that. You know, I want to see what the Dallas Cowboys are doing. You know, those are for slaves, not for those that want to control things. And if you ever get a chance, I like to watch a lot of course, everything that I deal with is mostly economic, or I should say geopolitically oriented. And if you see what China has done, and it's not to promote China, it's to say that because we're 10 times more powerful. We're gods compared to Chinese. They can't even hold a candle to who we are. When we're in our right mind, we'll have them groveling on their feet like the mortals they are. But the thing is we have to be, and I'm talking even the conscious as well as the Dallas Cowboys we. Once we're in our right minds, every other race will be like the mortals groveling on their knees. The thing is I have to admire how they've competed against this competitor called crackers. You know, if you look at the certain technologies they were sanctioned and banned from, and they couldn't have this, they said, no worries, we'll create our own. Now to the point where even their competitor are sitting there groveling on their knees, prostrating themselves in front of China saying, can you please buy our stuff? You know, that, in other words, Black folks, we have been sanctioned for 2,000 seasons, more than that. It's just continual sanctions. Yet we're still looking for someone else to wipe our nose. And I mean, they would not, I'm talking whether it's Arabs, Peckerwoods, or Asians, or East Indians, whoever else would not have what they have. They would not be where they're at. They wouldn't even be if it weren't for us allowing it to happen. So hopefully one day that we'll see how important we are and how powerful, and I'm not talking, subjectively or abstract, I'm talking really powerful, that we could be if we start to take a hint on some of these videos. And I'll send them to you there, Brother Forecast, some of these things in terms of when China got sanctioned from, I mean, you name it, they were just sanctioned. They said, okay, we'll build it ourselves. Okay, oh, you don't want to, okay, you're not giving, okay, we'll just do it ourselves. To the point right now, look at that space station. They were not allowed on the United Snake space station. China made its own, which is outpacing everything. You know, and so it's not like we can't. It's, do we have the will to want to do it? You know, and thanking folks for their service is definitely not in the right direction. You know, that, you know, going ahead and trying to assimilate and picnic where you can't even eat, you know, is not the right direction. The thing is because of the fact that that Wall Street that they had, the enslaved Africans back in the day, well, when we were sanctioned, we decided to build our own. And you see what happens when you build your own, how powerful it could get. Yeah, they have to go to war. We're right now, Brother Forecast, if we're not building our own and telling them to kiss our black ass, then we got some problems. We might not be around long enough to even think about, you know, thanking folks for a service. You know? But anyways, thank you so much there, Brother Forecast. I'm gonna let you go, and I just gotta say peace, man. You know, always keep up the good work there, my brother.
Nah, yeah, I appreciate you for coming on here and all the wisdom and consider Mauritanians. That's what she's saying is interesting because she said it's 8:11 there, and where you are is 8:11 p.m. But for me, it's like 11:11 or 11:12. But I still go with 11:11 for those who understand. But and Kofi, no, I wasn't saying, I never said nobody owned anything. I was saying, I was referring to something in a video earlier about how a Chinese person, what Chinese Denisovan, like that's what they are, right? Denisovan, whatever. A Chinese person don't mind going over there, but a black person will sit there and argue with you about whether they are African or not. You know what I'm saying? And here we have a sister who is not talking about it. She's over there investing in what she's you know, she's doing what she talks about. Meanwhile, you have a bunch of black people, black men specifically, who will argue with you, while every other group will say what they got to say about Africa and then go over there and capitalize off of whatever it is, because that's all it is. We need to start capitalizing on what is, you know what I'm saying? So that's all I would say about that, you know. And so shouts out to my brother MG2 for coming on, and shouts out to Cassandra who's over there. Y'all definitely subscribe to her and go to her Facebook page and listen to her and all of that stuff, you know. And shouts out to Kofi in the building, you know. Make sure y'all subscribe to Kofi's channel. And shouts out to Matron. Y'all definitely subscribe to Matron and check out her readings. She definitely be having great readings. You know, I appreciate her. Shouts out to Karma 804. I appreciate you. I know she probably sleep or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, I appreciate all of y'all for listening. And I guess still, like I said, this will be the last words here.
African. We are African, and we happen to be in America. We're not American. We are people who formerly were Africans who were kidnapped and brought to America. Our forefathers weren't the Pilgrims. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. The rock was landed on us. We were brought here against our will. We were not brought here to be made citizens. We were not brought here to enjoy the constitutional gifts that they speak so beautifully about today. Because we weren't brought here to be made citizens today, now that we've become awakened to some degree and we begin to ask for those things which they say are supposedly for Americans, they look upon us with hostility and unfriendliness. If you're interested in freedom, you need some judo, you need some karate, you need all the things that will help you fight for freedom. Nationalism is the wave of the present and the future. It is nationalism that's bringing freedom to oppressed people all over the world. It was nationalism that brought freedom to the Algerians. It was nationalism that brought freedom to the Nigerians and to the Ghanaians. It was nationalism that brought freedom to the people of Uganda and Tanganyika and Sudan and Somaliland. The Africans didn't get it by sitting in. They didn't get it by waiting in. They didn't get it by singing "We Shall Overcome." They got it through nationalism. And you and I will get it through nationalism. What is it? What is it that makes it difficult for the philosophy of nationalism to spread among the so-called Negroes? Number one, they think they have a stake in America. They think they have an investment in this country, which we do. We invested 310 years of slave labor, 310 years, every day of which your and my mother and father worked for nothing. Not 8 hours a day. There was no union in that day. They worked from sun up until sundown, from can't see in the morning until can't see at night. They never had a day off. And on Sunday, they were allowed to sit down and sing about when they died, they wouldn't be slaves no more. When they died, they wouldn't be slaves no more. They'd go up in the sky and every day would be Sunday. That's a shame. And it is that 310 years of slave labor that went in, that was mine and your contribution into this particular economy and political system. They can give us the back pay. Let's join in. If this is what the Negro wants, let's join in. Let's show him how to struggle. Let's show him how to fight. Let's show him how to bring about a real revolution. Let's make him stop jiving. You don't need a debate. You don't need a filibuster. You need some action.
Facts. We don't need to debate. It's only one answer. And until we accept it and live up to it, shit, welcome to slavery again, y'all. So as always, man, we have got to start standing for something, or we're gonna keep falling for anything.